Good afternoon, I'm Patrick, and before we begin our presentation, I'd like to thank Erin Golden of the Springfield Institute, Joshua Mayer, and Molly Lee of the Amherst College Center for Community Engagement. We would also like to thank Frank Robinson of the Promise Neighborhood Learning Community, and Vanessa Otero for granting us interviews. This is our team, composed of Noah, myself, who is Cynthia, Louie, and Emily.
The Promise Neighborhood Initiative is about more than just improving schools. It's about improving the education of Springfield children and young adults by creating a stable environment for them to learn. It's a holistic approach that tracks students from pre-K to college and makes sure that there are no impediments to success along the way. Over the course of our research, we've discovered that the most important factors for a child's success in school are ones you would normally think of. Things like housing value, economic development, and partnerships between local and community organizations. The well-being of Springfield students depends on cooperation and coordination between the various elements already in place in the city and the greater Pioneer Valley. Springfield has what it takes to be the next Promise Neighborhood.
El Promise Neighborhood Initiative es algo más que un proyecto para mejorar las escuelas. El programa se trata de mejorar la educación de la juventud de Springfield mediante la creación de un ambiente estable en el que puedan aprender. Es un enfoque integral que cuida a los estudiantes desde preescolar hasta la universidad, asegurándose que no existan impedimentos para el cambio educativo. En el transcurso de nuestra investigación, hemos descubierto que los factores más importantes para el éxito de un niño en la escuela son los que normalmente no se lo comprenderían. Cosas como el valor de la vivienda, el desarrollo económico y las interacciones entre las organizaciones comunitarias locales. El bienestar de los estudiantes de Springfield depende de la cooperación y la coordinación de las diversas organizaciones ya presentes en la ciudad de Springfield y el Greater Pioneer Valley. Springfield tiene todo lo necesario para ser el próximo Promise Neighborhood.
Our research centered around finding the best practices available that included an in-depth analysis of the Harlem Children's Zone, as well as reading the 21 proposals that were granted funding by the federal government and finding what commonalities there were between them. We also researched into other programs that were available. In addition to that, we interviewed Frank Robinson and Vanessa Otero of Northern Campus College.
The findings we'll be presenting here can be divided into 5 areas. First, research into the Harlem Children's Zone. Next, research into the necessity of higher education. Also, potential leadership structures, evaluation and accountability, and new models for community organizations.
So I will be first talking about some of our findings about Harlem Children's Zone. So after careful analysis of its programs and services, we have identified 3 major components of its success. The first component is its funding. We have discovered that the Promise Neighborhood Academy, which is the flagship charter school of Harlem Children's Zone, now boasts an asset over $200 million and continue to receive incoming donations from individuals and organizations. And many other neighborhoods and charter schools cannot compete with Harlem Children's Zone in terms of financial strength. The second major component is its cradle-to-college approach. So children in Harlem Children's Zone begin to receive support when they were preschool and continue to receive academic and career support after their promotion to universities. This idea sort of exemplifies the bringing the community together approach. So the third component that I would like to talk about is its supporting programs. So at Harlem Children's Zone there exists a wide range of services ranging from family counseling, asthma prevention, and preschool readiness programs. And all of these programs seems to suggest that the benefits given to the children need to trickle down to other members of the community. Next, I'm going to talk about some of the best practices that other Promise neighborhoods can learn. So the number one best practice is its commitment to accountability. We believe that the result-driven approach of Harlem Children's Zone not only creates a system of efficiency and shared responsibility, but also helps donors, but also convinces the donors of Harlem Children's Zone's commitment to accountability and excellence. We suggest that different organizations collaborate with local third-party agencies, especially higher education institutions, to receive objective and scholastic feedbacks to their work. So the second best practice that we suggest is asset coordination. We have discovered that many struggling neighborhoods already have a wide range of services, such as leadership leadership development program, and microloan opportunities, and new services continue to emerge in these neighborhoods. We believe the key, therefore, is to identify a platform of collaboration where different organizations may pool resources together, streamline their delivery processes, and therefore maximize the impact of their work.
When we looked at the 21 Promised Neighborhood initiatives already approved for planning funding by the federal government, we found that all but 3 of them mentioned partnerships with higher education. And we looked into why they did that. In fact, most of them emphasized their partnerships with higher education, especially Worcester, which is right nearby Springfield. They emphasized a strong partnership with Clark University. There were 3 main reasons why they did that. The first was generating opportunity for students. Partnerships with higher education create the availability of scholarships. The second was a steady, skilled workforce. Partnerships with institutions of higher education make available skilled teachers to the community and also skilled workers from schools and social work. And third is data analysis and evaluation. One of the most vital stages of policy analysis is policy evaluation. After the policy has already been implemented, looking at it to see what works, what doesn't, and how we can fix it.
There are a variety of sources available in Springfield. In fact, in the Pioneer Valley, there are 2 college consortiums, the Cooperating Colleges of Greater Springfield. All of its members actually have schools of education so that we are able to have a skilled workforce from the colleges. And most of them have programs for community engagement. There's also 5 College Incorporated, which is in the northern part of the Pioneer Valley, but it offers a variety of resources that could also be utilized.
In this section, we brainstorm potential leadership structures for the Springfield Promised Neighborhood. The first is the Coalition Board of Directors Forum, where the representatives from the community partner groups form the board of directors. One pro for this is that all the community partners have an equal say and participation in the board of directors and governing the Promised Neighborhood. A drawback from this is that the success depends heavily upon whomever constitutes the board of directors and depend upon the people who are in that board. The second model is the parent organization model, where the Promised Neighborhood Living Community would be the governing body and the community partners would be under them. A pro for this model is that the Promised Neighborhood Learning Community is the buck-stop model, where they are the people who are held accountable and the people of Springfield and the government can look to. But a drawback is that the community partners have less of an input and participation in this model. The third model is the government and community partnership model. In this model, community partners at the bottom, they look at the base, followed by a Promised Neighborhood Learning Community, and finally the officials and coalition or community members. A pro for this model is that the city and state government adds a form of legitimacy to the Promised Neighborhood Initiative. However, a drawback is that it's subordinated to community partners and limited to community partners. Evaluation and accountability. Measuring aggregates is key to defining the success of ensuring the success of the Promised Neighborhood. However, in measuring the aggregates, it is important to be able to disaggregate the population by factors such as race, gender, class, to ensure that everybody is succeeding in the approach to the Promised Neighborhood is completing what it really is trying to set out to complete. In tracking students, we determined that a possible means to track students is by issuing a number that is not their social security number, a number similar to an ID number that students receive in college. This number will be known to the student and to the student's family, but not to anyone else. And when you track these students and you have their numbers, you can collect data, and the data will be published from each organization and from each student. However, it'll be made public for the aggregate, and the private data will be made available to the parents and or the student's family guardian. And for the students, the results for the students as a whole, and the community organizations as a whole, we suggest be published on a monthly basis, updated the website, a model similar to the Springfield Public Schools website, and a semi-annual paper publication made available possibly during the time where mid-year grades come out to families. Those results can be sent out in paper form to families. And finally, the evaluation method is looking at the change in indicators. If you look at the percent and number of students that come from where we started out with, for example, low birth rates, and how many are by the time in a number of years that can reach to an adequate birth rate. That is the key factors of the indicators and change to measure how well the conversation is doing.
Another important component of the Harlem Children's Zone is organizing and empowering the adults so that the parents could feel like they could be resourceful to their children, and so that the parents could participate in community development projects such as home ownership acquirement. Given this necessary condition to fulfill, I'd like to suggest the idea of community organizations integrating into their work both community organizing and development. Nuestras Raíces of Holyoke uses this model already, and they've been phenomenally successful in scaling up. What's interesting about their approach is that they transform vacant lots into community gardens that provide employment and training opportunities to residents of all ages. And Nuestras Raíces also collaborates with residents to start new businesses. As a result of their work, property value increases in Holyoke and a strong sense of community arises. So here's a really creative formula for combining community organizing and development and economic development. And I believe that community organizations are in a good position to combine the two because they are already providing services. So complementing services with ways in which residents can also contribute is ideal.
So a lot more information can be found in our report than what we presented here. We have information on how to go about requesting grants from government bodies. We have 3 detailed links on how to conduct a needs assessment in that section. We have proposal basics from the other 3 promised neighborhoods in Massachusetts. Those are Boston, Lawrence, and Worcester. We have a detailed list of community organizations already present in Springfield. We have a variety of statistics, including the effectiveness of charter schools in Massachusetts from a report done by Stanford University, and certain common indicators that other promised neighborhoods have used. And we, of course, have more depth on the sections we've already presented here.
I would just like to conclude that Springfield is ready. They have all the parts. They just have to put it into a machine and get it working. Springfield will be, it is important for Springfield to build a coalition between the community organizations already present and the Promised Neighborhood Learning Community to build this promised neighborhood that the community is envisioning. Our presentation is just a small contribution. We by no means have all the answers, but what we have presented here today was in our report, is just a starting point that can be added to the Promised Neighborhood Learning Community.